Femme House fam, what's happening? It is her Mix-a-Lot. I am here with the lovely Aki. Aki, thank you for being here with us.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting.
Tell me and our listeners and viewers, what was sort of the linchpin to get you to this moment as a DJ and as a producer?
Yeah, wow. I feel like it's always so hard to pinpoint the exact moment. Like, I was definitely a garage band girly as a kid. And
Oh,
like, my dad got me a laptop, and I don't think I came out of my room for a few weeks until I like finished a track on GarageBand instead of doing math homework. Um, so I was definitely interested in music from a really young age and making music. I played the electric organ, which is this like double level keyboard, which a lot of people haven't really heard of, but it's like a church organ, but modern. It's like a modern synthesizer type thing. I grew up around a lot of different types of music, so um, my heritage is Indian, so I grew up with a lot of Indian music around. Um, I also went to an international school growing up in Singapore. So I grew up in Australia and Singapore, and Singapore especially had a lot of international kids, a lot of international friends. So we had a lot of exposure to different types of music. I was very interested in like Middle Eastern music, flamenco music, things like that, and just grew up choreographing even things like Middle Eastern dancing. And then when I got to college, I was actually part of like a Latin Caribbean dance team. So it just like the global music exposure just like continued throughout my life. And then I don't even really know how exactly I got into house music specifically. When I was growing up in Singapore, like the clubbing scene was pretty big. So we used to have a lot of house music DJs actually pass through. So it could have been that. But then I think it was like 2014, especially. There was just such a beautiful flow of like electronic music that really inspired me. Like that's when I think like Disclosure came out, like Flight Facilities, like all that wave of music was coming out, and that really inspired me to get into house music. I was a big MK fan as well. So Shadow Child, Eli and Fur, like I feel like that was a really nice wave. And then the Brooklyn house music scene was also just like so underground at that time, and it was less about the big clubs and more about like the little warehouses that you
yeah.
go to, or like the no name doors, or like the secret RSVPs. So I think all that to say, like, DJing, being a house music DJ, being a house music producer is just like this culmination of all those different experiences. And just being so active in such a great community. I just feel so fortunate.
That's awesome. How did you sort of wrangle all of those sonic influences into your unique sound? And like
Yeah.
sort of part two of that question is explain like what do you think your unique sound is, considering all of those that that cultural melting pot that you seem to be a part of.
Yeah, I think at first when I got into house music, like I was definitely doing just only like definitely DJing more so than producing, and I was like DJing a lot of like deep house music. And then as I got more and more into it, I generally found that a lot of what I was like listening to was very much like feeling kind of like repetitive and not really infusing the flavor that I was just craving with all like the various backgrounds that I had been exposed to. And I realized, that like I just like so many different things, and I'm like, how do I fuse them together in a tasteful way? And
Is
that's
that
just
is that why
really
you
what.
started like sort of producing?
Yeah, definitely. Because I think it was this like really nice intersection of I love house music. Here's all my, global influences that I have. And then at the core of it, I think one thing I forgot to mention is like I am a singer songwriter. Like growing up, like I
Oh,
was journaling a lot, like writing a lot of lyrics, like writing a lot of vocals. I think it was just the realities of like growing up in an era without YouTube and without like Spotify. Like if you wanted to hear your favorite song, you had to, call in the radio or something like that. And if you couldn't hear it, then you had to like sing it to yourself. And I feel like that, inspired a lot of creativity as well. So just put all the things together, and I feel like it helped me really hone in on what my unique sound is, which I think is like house music, but inspired by like global flavors. Like taking things from like tribal house music to like Indian instruments. I've been experimenting with a lot of different like Indian instruments in my tracks, Middle Eastern, Caribbean rhythms that again I was just like really exposed to growing up. And I think what I've just been like wrangling with is like how to do it in a way that is really tasteful and like, that really, really makes sense in house music and like doesn't feel out of place and just feels really like unique and feels really me.
Are you throwing vocals on your own tracks, and like are you throwing vocals over your DJ sets? That's what we need to get going.
Oh my God, I'm so glad you asked, and I should have mentioned that. Yeah, actually, I will say, I think it was every track I put out this year, even a remix that I put out has my vocals on it, which was just like a huge accomplishment for me and just felt so gratifying because that is just what I dreamed of as a kid. Like I would, write these songs in my journal and then just like sing them to myself in the bathroom or like have this like, dumb melody. And now I'm just have the, ability to really make it happen. And I even like performed one of my songs live when I was DJing at a pretty big Brooklyn club this year called Elsewhere. And all my friends loved it, like, because it was so unexpected. I didn't even tell anyone I was going to really do it. And I, got on the mic and just sang my vocal. And it's great because I think another thing I should mention is that I love house music that feels like it has some kind of meaning, right? And like, I feel like I have so many stories to tell just about, the way I grew up or even just daily life to life things. And there's no better way to express it except through music. Like, one of the songs I put out this year is called My Head Is at the Rave. And it's all about just like balancing a day job, with like music production or like with just like being in the music scene where the vocals are all about, you come into work on a Monday morning and all you can think about is like being at the rave and just like putting that into a song and sharing that with people. And I had so many people reach out to me being like, oh yeah, that's exactly how I feel after going out all weekend. It's hella relatable.
Whether you're a DJ, whether you're a producer, even if you're just like a dancer, right? If you're just showing up to the club every spare minute of nighttime that you have to offer, just like waiting for those moments to share, that's relatable. A future dance music iconic anthem, I think.
Oh, I love that you said that because I think it's just something that anyone can relate to, whether you are a DJ, whether you just like go out and see shows. I feel like being part of the dance community, we're just waiting for the next time we're going to be with our friends, like at the party. Like Monday to Wednesday almost don't even matter anymore.
You've been playing a lot this year. I would take too much time in this interview if I sort of like ran through all the places you've played, all the people you've played with. And you've also been producing a ton and releasing tracks a ton. How has that sort of shifted your relationship with your day job and your passion?
Yeah, I think like being a producer has definitely been become much a bigger part of my identity, especially this year, just getting so much more ingrained into it. I feel like my music career has gone through a few different cycles where I started DJing and I grew quite quickly in the Brooklyn scene, admittedly, and I started playing, major clubs within a few years of just, starting to even DJ. And then I feel like that was really cool, but then that meant that production kind of like took a bit of a back seat. And then I put out a few tracks, and then those tracks resulted in more gigs, and then I feel like again like production kind of took a back seat, and now I kind of see the pattern and I just want to, stay in the production zone and just like, get ahead of it. But I feel like it's also just been so great to be a creative outlet, especially with my day job, right? It's just, I feel like creative work is such a good stress reliever, and it's such a good way to just, maintain the identity of oneself. And I've started really seeing it as that versus this like incredibly daunting thing that I used to feel it was, that it almost felt like an obligation before. Like I have to produce. That's the only way I'm going to grow. And now it's more like I'm producing because I like producing versus like I'm producing because it just needs to grow my career. So I feel like that's been like the biggest shift for me.
You're a sober DJ too. Is would you say that music is your drug of choice these days? Then your drug and drink of choice.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think I that was another, way for me to just get a lot more serious about my career. I feel I gave up alcohol and anything else about 3 years ago because I realized that for me to be more of a serious artist and balance a day job, like I couldn't afford to waste time on things like hangovers anymore.
Yeah.
It's incredible once you strip all that away. You're like, oh, my body needs a lot more rest and relaxation than I actually thought it did. And
Sure.
before, like, right, and then before, the alcohol was just like masking all of it. Like I was just able to, like, play a bunch of gigs, go to work, do the whole thing. But I think getting sober has just like really, really helped me reset my mind. And I think it's also just like helped me, be less critical of my own productions. Like I feel like, it's just cleared my mind in that way where I can just like look at myself with compassion versus, sometimes after like a long night of drinking or whatever, you get like anxiety, like you can't exactly be one with yourself. And I feel like having more of a clear mind helps me be like, okay, this is the production journey. Maybe I'll make 5 tracks I don't like and 1 track I do like. I'm gonna, give myself some leeway because I'm still learning. So I think it's just been helpful in so many ways to that degree. But it's hard. Like, it's hard.
Sure.
I think that the thing I found toughest is not being able to stay out late anymore.
Yeah.
Unless I'm actually unless I'm actually like DJing, in which case the adrenaline, the energy just like comes out of nowhere. I don't even know where. Like I don't drink Red Bull or anything like that. But I think like, it's been harder to go out late for shows, even with music that I want to see. I've had to sacrifice a lot of that. I've been trying to go to like early parties here and there. Like at least that's been a scene that's been growing in Brooklyn a little bit more. But it's something I've had to really honestly ask myself, like, okay, what's going to happen if I need a tour tomorrow? Like, am I going to be able to be out late back-to-back nights or, whatever? So I don't have an answer yet, but it's just like things that I've been really considering because I love this sober lifestyle. So.
A surprising amount of DJs and producers are very privately sober, and a lot of them name that the biggest change that they've seen in themselves in this line of work is just like a different sort of presence and this sort of realization that a lot of the drinking and the drugging to sort of keep up socially, to mask a lot of like social anxiety, to literally just keep the pace, that comes at a certain price for some folks, and generally that price is presence. And there's something really freeing about understanding that you can party and enjoy this music and like go to this church of the dance floor and still fucking send it without outside help. That it's just like that it's in there for real.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you say that because I think that's definitely been one of my biggest learnings is like this is such a relationship industry, right? And I in some sense back in the day when I used to, drink and do whatever and play with a lot of these bigger artists, it was, fun to drink with them and all these different things. And I built a lot of great relationships that way. But now I'm able to actually build relationships with people and like remember these conversations and be like super present with them and, like actually remember what we talked about and like connect with them on a deeper level. And I think that is beautiful in its own sense. Like, I feel like previously whatever I was doing had its time, but it wasn't something that I could, that was sustainable in the long term.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations to you and keep going.
Thank you, thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Yeah, it's exactly. It's I just exactly what I want to do. Like, I don't see myself going back. Hopefully not.
What are some of the highlights of this year for you? I mean, you've done a lot this year alone. What were some high points for you?
Yeah, I think definitely a handful of releases. So as I was saying before, I hadn't like my career's kind of gone in cycles where I was like teaching a lot and then producing a little, and then I kind of producing took a back seat, and I feel like producing to me, it always just comes back to that where if I give it up, I was like, why am I not producing more? Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, I'm here to just give and show the music that I love. And I love just putting out a bunch of tracks this year because I didn't put out much over the last 2 years. To the point where, it was, I wouldn't say I was depressed, but I was definitely like sad about it. Um, I really internalized that feeling where I was playing gigs before and just not playing enough of my own music. So I think that was like definitely a few highlights, like releasing tracks, like having those tracks being played by bigger artists. Even seeing that in flight feedback that you get, it's so gratifying to see the feedback that people, you know, the way they respond to your tracks, like saying like they like it or they're going to play it on their radio station. I mean, it makes me so happy, and it's such a gratifying feeling. And I did have some solid gigs this year too. Like I played with Valentino Khan, which was great. That was a really cool show. We actually played at like a roller rink club here in Brooklyn.
Ooh, this sounds tight.
Um, yeah, it was really cool. Like they actually closed like the roller rink, so no one was like roller skating during our set. But it was like the dance floor. The roller rink became a dance floor. And then I played with Dombresky. Like he did like a disco dom show, and that was really really cool. And Ferric Dawn also, who was like definitely someone I loved like back in the day. Like I never thought I would end up playing with him, and I think I like all those like situations were just like different types of situations that really pushed me to start to adapt my like my sets accordingly. So I think those are really cool, and some of those were actually bucket list venues as well. So yeah, I think a lot of that would be my highlight for the year. But honestly, it's funny. I think some of my biggest highlights of this year are just a lot of internal growth. Like I just feel like I've grown, and that's not something that's not something that you can just like point to like a beatport top track or anything like that. It's just something that's like it's like an internal thing where I feel like I've grown so much this year just as a person, and just like finding that that self-love a lot more, and that like internal gratification for things. And just like I've learned how important it is to celebrate the micro wins, because especially in this industry, I feel like we're so we're so tempted to always look at what's next. It's like we achieve one thing and then it's like, oh, what's next? Like, what's my next goal? It's like the dream becomes that you achieve becomes the baseline. Um, or like we don't celebrate anything unless it's like really big. And I think for me, I've just been trying really hard to just celebrate the little wins, because success is so relative just based on where you're at. And I think like that's been a huge win for me this year, is just to shift that mindset, because that's what makes my creative even better. And
I was just going to say, I love you sort of naming and pointing to your self growth as like a milestone win, because
yeah,
anytime, first of all, that's just like good for you, like as a person, right? And also,
yeah,
like, I think it's really important for creatives to name to other creatives that the more grounded you are in self, the more rooted you are in self, the more you love yourself, the more you
yeah,
care for yourself and treat yourself with kindness and grace and compassion, the better the
right,
art is going to be at all times. It's just like
exactly.
it's simple math.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree, because I feel like another potential peril of this industry is just being so distracted by what everyone's doing.
Yeah.
Especially because there's so much pressure on us to be on social media all the time and like stay on top of what's trending and like post like the right trending content, and that requires being very in tune and on social media and digesting that content. And I think it's just so important to like have that separation, like have your blinders on and just not worry. You could, I think it's important to be inspired by other people, but not like worry about comparing yourself too much, because that's when you get distracted from your own goals. And then if you don't know your own goals, then you're constantly going to be like following other people's, right? So I say this as if I have it mastered, but I definitely don't. You know, I compare myself. I compare myself all the time.
Uh,
It's just,
Human
you know,
nature.
it's human nature. And but I think it's important to be aware of it, you know.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
What would you say to young Aki to like just get her here, to keep her going, keep her smiling, keep grinding, like just to get her to this moment? And even
Yeah.
what would future Aki say to present day Aki to make sure that you keep going?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think I would just tell my younger self to just like you're onto something. Like don't stop. Well, don't stop believing. That's so cheesy. But literally,
Don't
like,
stop believing.
wow, you sang it way better than the original. So, like, just like trust and believe you're onto something, because, you know, you really are, and there's gonna come a moment where it all just makes sense. This amalgamation of like all these different influences you've had, all these different like life experiences that you've had. Um, you know, I think it's important to just like stay strong and like push through. So yeah, I think that's the advice I would give to my younger self, and just to like keep working hard. You know, I think I try not to think about regrets, but I think maybe like the one thing I wish I'd done differently is honestly focusing a bit more on production, because when I think about it, like in my heart of it, I really, you know, that's how I really want to grow as an artist. And I've played a lot of amazing gigs, and I'm so thankful for them. But they've taken up a lot of time and a lot of energy, and I really think like focusing on production, you know, would have been more of a better path for me. But it's never too late, right? So that's what I'm doing now, and like that's what I'm going to continue doing. Even to the point where I've been saying no to gigs this year. So I think that's another thing I would tell my younger self is like it's okay to say no if something just doesn't feel right for you, and if you don't feel like it, you know, aligns with your priorities. And then I think for future Aki, if like future Aki was looking back, I think she'd probably just say like, good on you for putting in that work. Because, you know, like we are just like so happy now. And honestly, like, regardless of where that ends up, like, regardless of where all this goes, I feel like things are going to land in a good place. And like, happiness is really the ultimate goal for me. Yeah.
That seems like the perfect place and the perfect sentiment upon which to end an interview. That is wisdom right there. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for being here, and we're so proud of you. I will echo future Aki and tell present day Aki to continue on and keep going and
Yeah.
keep creating spaces with your unique superpower perspective. And,
Yeah.
and thank you for all the work that you contribute to this thing that we all know and love.
Oh, of course. Thank you for all the work that you do and for having me
Thank
on.
you.
I'm so inspired
Yeah,
by everything you and Leah do. Yeah.
thank you. Thank you. Well, Femme House fam, that was another uplifting episode of Femme House Radio. This is Aki. I am her mix-a-lot. We will see you next time. Peace.